Okay, good morning. My name is Ellen Kokenda. I'm opening the staff hearing officer meeting of June 28th, 2023. First, we have preliminary matters. Any requests for continuances, withdrawals, postponements, or addition of ex-agenda items? And I do not have anything. And moving on to announcements. So I do have 3 announcements, and bear with me. Starting with 205 Santa Cruz Boulevard. This is an announcement of the staff hearing officer decision for a coastal development permit for a project at 205 Santa Cruz Boulevard. The project consists of demolition of a 2-car carport and construction of a new 1-car garage along with an adjacent uncovered parking space and a new detached 383 square foot single story accessory dwelling unit on a 7,079 square foot lot. The ADU is proposed to be attached to the new garage, which is attached from the new main residence. The subject parcel is also developed with a 1,300 square foot single-story, single-unit residence. No changes are proposed to the main residence. Both proposed parking spaces would serve the main residence. The discretionary applications under the jurisdiction of the staff hearing officer required for this project are a coastal development permit to allow the proposed development in the appealable jurisdiction of the city's coastal zone, and then determine that the project is categorically exempt from further environmental review. I can just confirm that I can receive written correspondence, and just for the record, I want to acknowledge written correspondence from John Kerman that was distributed prior to this this announcement, and I did read it, and thank you for that. And I can also just, but I just want to acknowledge that although this is appealable to the Coastal Commission, this is the final action of the city, and I can go ahead and make the findings for the coastal development permit and determine that the project is categorically exempt with the conditions of approval as written in the staff report. So that is for the first announcement. Secondly, I have an announcement for the decision on the coastal development permit for the project at 3233 Cliff Drive. This project consists of the conversion of an existing 432 square foot attached 2-car garage to a junior accessory dwelling unit on a 56,749 square foot lot. The project also proposes site work including demolition of the existing septic system and installation of new septic system, demolition of asphalt concrete driveway sections, installation of a new permeable vehicular turnaround and new gravel turnaround, and restoration of existing stormwater, riprap, and drainage. The site is developed with a 1,825 square foot single-story, single-unit residence and the subject garage. The discretionary applications under the jurisdiction of the staff hearing officer required for this project are a coastal development permit to allow the proposed development in the appealable jurisdiction of the city's coastal zone, and then secondly, to determine that it's categorically exempt from further environmental review. Further, I did not receive, I am able to receive written correspondence, but there's no public hearing on these items. It's just an announcement. I've read the staff report, and similar to the last one, went out on site to do a site visit, and I can confirm that I can make the findings for the coastal development permit and determine that this project is categorically exempt following staff's staff report, and this will be subject to the conditions in that report. Last announcement is an announcement of the staff hearing officer decision on a coastal development permit for a project at 218 La Marina Drive. The project consists of a proposal to construct a new 402 square foot single-story detached accessory dwelling unit on a 6,862 square foot lot. The subject parcel is developed with a 732 square foot single-story, single-unit residence with an attached 250 square foot 1-car garage, which are proposed to remain. The discretionary applications under the jurisdiction of the staff hearing officer or coastal development permit to allow the proposed development in the non-appealable jurisdiction of the city's coastal zone, and to determine that the project is categorically exempt from further environmental review. Again, I read the staff report and did a site visit, concur with staff's conclusions. I did not receive any written correspondence on this particular item. And there is no public hearing. This is just an announcement today, and this is the final action of the city. So I can make the findings for the coastal development permit and determine that this project is categorically exempt from further environmental review, and with the conditions that are drafted in the staff report. And that concludes all of my announcements. Now, I would like to open it up to public comment for items not on today's agenda. So if anyone in the audience wishes to speak on items not on today's agenda, you can fill out a speaker slip. Ms. Gu, do we have anyone attending via Zoom?
We do not have any hands raised for general public comment. Thank you.
Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and close general public comment and start with the first main agenda item, which is 328 East Padre Street. And hang on just a second. One moment. We're going to do I don't see our staff assigned case planner down here, so we're going to adjourn for just a moment, and I would like to invite the applicant to come up, and I'll get you set up on the computer, and then I'll reopen in just a couple of minutes. staff hearing officer meeting. We have 328 East Padre. This is a 5,750 square foot lot. It's developed with a 958 square foot residence and a 270 square foot garage. The proposal consists of an addition of 164 square feet and a 244 square foot covered deck, and converting the existing garage to an accessory dwelling unit. The discretionary applications under the jurisdiction of the staff hearing officer required for this project are an open yard modification to reduce the nonconforming open yard area from 1,054 square feet to 756 square feet. And then, just to determine that the project is categorically exempt from further environmental review pursuant to California Environmental Quality Act Guidelines, Section 15301, existing facilities, and 15303, new construction or conversion of small structures. So we have Marisela Salinas, who is the senior planner here, to walk us through the project. Ms. Gu, can you please switch over to the screen?
Sure.
And here we are. So, Marisela, I can kind of help you out with this in terms of taking the mouse, if you want to just go to the site plan. Yeah, actually, that would be very helpful, Ms. Claus, if you wouldn't mind.
Thank you, Mary. Is this on? There it is. Sorry, I apologize. This is a little bit off the cuff. As you mentioned, we do have, this project requires an open yard modification. The current site has non-conforming open yard, and as part of the construction of a new accessory dwelling unit, there are some adjustments that are being made. Although the yard is being reduced, there are new areas that are compensating and are creating usable space, including the new covered deck that's on adjacent to the residence. I'm not sure that there's too much to add to this. The project does have the house is very modest in size. The accessory dwelling unit will provide more housing for the community, and with the improvements that proposed on the site, it is creating actually more open space, because it's the area that's to the south of the ADU is a nice large area that will be enjoyed by both the residents and the ADU. In addition, with the conversion of the garage to uncovered in addition to the conversion of the covered parking to an ADU and proposing the uncovered parking spaces in the driveway, there is an additional area of open space that's being created now in front of the ADU to the left of it. To the west, sorry. So even though technically it's a little bit smaller, there are more usable areas that'll be able to be shared or used privately by both parties on the site. With that, we would recommend that the staff hearing officer approve the open yard modification for the site, given that it is necessary to secure an appropriate improvement for the site and prevent unreasonable hardship. We also do believe that there's compensating areas that are now, while technically not allowed to be part of the open yard, still serve for both parties for recreation. That concludes staff's presentation.
Thank you, Ms. Salinas. And I'd just like to ask the applicant if you could introduce yourself. If you could introduce yourself for the record, and if you want to walk me through any other considerations or kind of how you this request and anything else you'd like to say about it.
Leslie Colas, architect and applicant for the owners. I don't have a lot to add, pretty simple project. So existing residence footprint is in this area. There is an existing approximately 6-foot deep deck that exists currently in this area. So in a sense, we're reconfiguring the existing covered deck, and we're taking advantage of this area for a enclosed sunroom that will be part of the main house. This is an aging couple. They've owned the property for a while. It's an undersized lot, so there are constraints. And really what we're trying to do is create a situation for them where they will have everything on one level, and when it gets to a point where they, potentially can't be in the backyard, which is down about 4.5 feet from the elevation of the residence, they can still be outdoors on this covered deck area. So we feel like this is meeting to a great degree the intent of the outdoor open space yard requirement, in that it allows them to enjoy their outdoors. And As Maricela said, this area out here in front of the ADU, which is currently used as driveway, will now be segmented from the driveway, and this will become outdoor space that will also be usable on grade. So very modest addition. I don't think there's a whole lot to talk about architecturally. Really, we're just dealing with site plans, but I'm happy to answer any questions that you
Okay.
might have.
Thank you, Ms. Class. Okay, I'm going to open it up for public comment. If there's anyone who wishes to speak on this item or 328 East Padre Street, you can raise your hand via Zoom or,
Here our plans were.
hang on, I've lost my spot here. You can raise your hand via Zoom. Is anyone in the audience wishes to speak on this item, please come up. I do not see anyone in the audience. Ms. Gu, do we have anyone via Zoom who wishes to speak?
I do not see any raised hands. If anyone out in the audience, just depress the raised hands icon. At this time, I do not see any raised hands.
Okay, and I can confirm that I did not receive any public written correspondence, so I'll go ahead and close public comment for this item. I read the staff report, I went out on site, I was probably tracked on a Ring camera, I knocked on the door, but I wasn't able to reach anyone, but I was able to go back just along the driveway and understand the context of the rear yard and see the difference and, the 4.5, 5 feet between. This is a really modest addition to a small home on a small lot, and again, that it meets your client's needs in terms of being on one floor, not trying to do any kind of second story addition, which is much appreciated. So I think it's a really smart design and am supportive of being able to cut into the required open yard area because it's still, there is still that open yard area in the rear, and then with the context of the new livable or the outdoor space in front of the accessory dwelling unit, kind of capturing some of the driveway, that also, again, kind of extends that outdoor use and kind of meets the intent of the zoning ordinance. Just to also qualify that, again, I didn't have any questions. This is very straightforward, and I'm just looking at a white screen, but if you could just take us back to the site plan, if you're able to find it, and I'm going to kind
Perhaps
of put you
staff
through
could
the
help me.
test, because now you know what it feels like to be on
Yes.
the other side and the
It's-
anxiety.
Yeah.
But this is.
I would love to help you get back to the site plan,
Okay,
so
there-
here
it's
is the site
There
plan.
you go. Okay.
but I
I
think
think
it's,
you're zoomed out.
yeah, I
okay.
don't know.
If you,
There we go.
There we go.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. My apologies.
no,
Thank you
it's-
for
this
help.
It's a learning curve, and I'm no better. I don't do it either that much. So, but just to kind of call out that with the covered deck, that is, despite there being a roof over it, there's still kind of outdoor enjoyment and kind of being able to experience that. So I support this open yard modification as it's written in the staff report, and that it's consistent with the general purposes and intent of our zoning ordinance and necessary to secure an appropriate improvement on the lot. Again, for all of the reasons listed, and again, appreciation, not necessarily having to propose a second story, and kind of getting around that, and with the considerations of the additional outdoor space that's been created in front of the accessory dwelling unit. So, and then I can also confirm that this project is exempt from further environmental review. With that said, my decision is appealable within 10 calendar days. Anyone can appeal it, or any member of the Planning Commission could suspend my decision for the full Planning Commission to review. So thank you. I wish you and your client good luck on your next steps. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Cookinda.
Okay, and thank you, Ms. Salinas. And we are going to move on to the next item, which is item B, which 512 East Gutierrez Street. This is an existing 81,693 square foot parcel. It's developed with a 14,285 square foot two-story office building and a 21,130. Ms. Gu, can you swap? So. I think. So this is so it's developed with a 21,131 square foot, two-story office building, a total of 111 parking spaces, landscaping, and a single trash enclosure. The project proposes to subdivide the property into two legal lots with one existing building on each lot. No new development is proposed in conjunction with this subdivision application. So proposed parcel 1, fronting Gutierrez Street, would be 36,197 square feet and would contain 44 parking spaces to support the existing 14,285 square foot office structure. Access to the site would continue from an existing 20-foot driveway on Gutierrez Street and through the shared driveway on Olive Street. Proposed parcel 2, fronting Montecito Street, would be 45,496 square feet and would contain 67 parking spaces to support the 21,000 square foot office structure. Property access would remain through the existing shared driveway on Montecito Street and the shared driveway on Olive Street. And the discretionary applications under the jurisdiction of the staff hearing officer required for this project are a tentative subdivision map to allow the division of one parcel into two lots, and then B, to determine that the project is categorically exempt from further environmental review. And that is pursuant to guidelines section 15.315, minor land divisions. And we have Mr. Bauman here to present the project. And Ms. Gu, can you please go back to the other? Okay. And if you want, you can just click on the side so we can have click those little things. That's my pet peeve for staff hearing officer meetings.
All right. Good morning, Ms. Kokenda. Thank you for that project description.
Do you mind turning on you have your microphone on. Sorry, I thought you were using the other one.
Let's see. Here's the tentative map. We've got 512 East Gutierrez building here and 503 East Montecito Street building here. The entire site's occupied by visiting nurses, and they wish to subdivide the property. It used to all be one property, but they propose to occupy this building and then sell off the other property. So this project's really just redoing or undoing the lot merger that was done in 2000. The proposed lot line would be back where it was before these two lots were merged. The proposed lot line, there's a driveway entrance here and a drive aisle coming into the parking. So the lot line runs down the middle of the drive aisle. So they would do a reciprocal access easement. So all the parking continues to function. The overall site has one trash enclosure, so there would be an agreement for an off-site trash agreement so that both properties can continue to use the trash enclosure. In terms of findings and zoning ordinance consistency, there's no minimum lot area or public street frontage requirements in the M1 zone. Both existing main buildings would continue to face and have frontage on a public street. The existing development received approval of a parking modification in 2000. And these office uses were also in place before the relatively recent change with Title 30, where office is not an allowed use in the M1 zone, but it was previously. So these were conforming uses. So now the office use is non-conforming. And as it turns out, the way the lot line is drawn, the parking non-conformancy balances out. If you look at the percentage that the parking is not conforming for the overall site, and then you look at how it works out for these two separate sites, it remains with the same non-conformancy. So we don't need to do any parking modifications. The project's consistent with the general plan. The non-conforming use can remain as is. So staff supports the project. All the findings can be made. So we can recommend that the staff hearing officer approve the tentative subdivision map.
Thank you so much. If that concludes your presentation, I'd like to invite the applicant up. If you could please introduce yourself and kind of walk us through the, if you could just maybe point out on the screen some of the access easements from the staff report, and then say anything else you'd like to say about this request.
Thank you. I'm Shelby Messner-Jenke from Suzanne Elledge Planning and Permitting Services, agent for this project. As Mr. Baumann mentioned, this is a pretty simple project. No development is proposed as part of this subdivision. This was previously 2 parcels which were merged, as he mentioned, in 2000. The new lot line is proposed in the same place that it was previously. So I will point out the access points where we'll have a shared access agreement. So on Olive Street here, I'll zoom in a little bit. The new lot line is going to be placed pretty much directly in the middle of that existing driveway, which they do currently share. So we will have a shared access agreement to continue to use that driveway to access both parcels. Here is the location of that single trash enclosure that will have an off-site agreement so that new parcel 1 can continue to use that trash enclosure. Zooming back out. And I will, just mention again that the intention of VNA is to consolidate all of their operations into the building on Montecito Street. Both properties have served them well, but they now wish to consolidate here, and they will be selling off the Gutierrez property once the subdivision is complete. And as he mentioned, the nonconformity with the parking will not be increased at all as part of this subdivision. And that concludes my presentation.
Okay, thank you. I'm going to go open up public comment. If there's anyone in the audience who wishes to speak on this item, or anyone attending via Zoom, if you'd like to speak, please raise your hand. And I can confirm that I did not receive any written correspondence about this particular item, and I don't see anyone in the room who wishes to speak. And Ms. Gu, do we have anyone by Zoom?
I do not see any raised hands for this particular item. Thank you.
I'll close public comment. I read the staff report. I went out on site. I was curious with the, one of the things that I noticed when I went out on site was the trash area, knowing that there would have to be the off-site trash agreement in place. And that there was just a kind of an empty, or just a big dumpster kind of, and part of that line. Is that, I'm just curious if that was just there on a fluke, or if it's kind of hidden, or if it's kind of part of something, or has the trash needs like grown from this particular, are the needs being met currently?
To our understanding, the trash needs are currently being met, so perhaps what you saw may have been a
Just out in the open for
Yeah,
some reason, maybe
yeah.
it was trash day. Okay, I wasn't quite sure about that. This is as Mr. Baumann mentioned, this is a straightforward project. I think it's convenient, we've already seen this context before prior to 2000 with it being one, 2 parcels, and having the division line means that there's lots of recorded agreements, but essentially that it just continues the nonconformity, and it's appreciated that you didn't necessarily have to do any more modifications, and that it's fairly straightforward. And that the fact that it maintains the access, and the fact that all of the agreements would need to be in place in order to maintain those access points. I can make the findings of the tentative subdivision map as identified in the staff report, and that just the compliance with state and local requirements and conditions, and that and the municipal code and that it's consistent with the general plan and specific plans. And there are the fact that it is consistent with the zoning ordinance, and there is no development proposed for this particular site, so none of the denial findings apply in this scenario. And then again, the water quality requirements and access to public resources as it's written in the staff report, I concur with all of those. My decision is contingent upon the conditions of approval as outlined in the staff report. Did you have any questions about those conditions of approval?
No questions. I think that there was just one typo in the conditions of approval that Mr. Baumann and I noted.
Mr. Baumann, do you mind coming, can you, do you mind joining, just for clarity?
Right. Thank you. Yes, that's condition B3, recreational vehicle storage prohibition. There's some hidden text that was from our conditions of approval template that we use that still shows there.
Okay,
So we would like to delete where it
so we
says-
don't need number 3, that doesn't,
Right.
okay, that is, that makes sense. Okay, so my approval is subject to the conditions of approval that identified in this staff report, with one modification that condition B3 be crossed out, deleted from the conditions. But otherwise, I'm sorry, did you?
Well, the recreational vehicle storage prohibition, in our template, it notes that that's required for all non-residential projects.
I see.
It's just that hidden text.
I'm sorry,
doesn't
the
belong
hidden
there.
text, okay. Strike that. So it's to delete the include for projects that require, just the hidden text part that's in parentheses at the very end. So maintain condition B3 with that exclusion, that cross out at the very end. We'll clean that up. Okay.
Ms. Kokinda, could I mention one other thing that I did note, that just the approval date is listed as June 14th on those conditions, whereas June 28th today should be
Okay,
the date of
we will-
approval.
I see that in B1. So June 28th should be identified and condition B1. And we'll clean that up prior to sending this out for your records.
Thank
Okay.
you.
That concludes my decision for this item. And again, I also concur that it is exempt from further environmental review. And my action can be appealable within 10 calendar days by anyone. And also, any member of the Planning Commission could suspend my decision, and if they feel warranted. Okay. Thank you so
you.
much. Good luck moving forward. All right. Third item. Last but not least. And one moment, and I can help you set up. That's so funny. Okay, so moving on to item C, and Ms. Gu, can you please swap the screen over? We have 6021 Hollister Avenue. The site is a portion of the 826.24 acre airport parcel. It's currently developed as a parking lot. The proposed project consists of new paved park lot, planter strips, and a trash enclosure to support the conversion of the existing motel on the adjacent parcel to supportive housing. The discretionary applications under the jurisdiction of the staff hearing officer required for this project are a fence height modification to allow 6-foot high fencing within the 10-foot setback from Hollister Avenue, and to determine that this project is categorically exempt from further environmental review pursuant to the California Environmental Quality Act, Guidelines Section 15304, minor alterations to land. We have, let's see, Ms. Gu, do you mind switching back to the plans? We have Ms. Metzger here to present the project for staff, and then And then I can open it up to public comment. Go ahead, whenever you're ready.
Good morning. Thank you, Ms. Kokinda. Before you today, as you said, is a modification request to allow a 6-foot-high fence within the 10-foot setback from Hollister Avenue. This modification is part of a larger project to turn a dilapidated motel into supportive housing for people experiencing homelessness. This project is pretty unique in its site. You are looking at a map right now on the screen, and the gray area is actually in the city of Goleta city limits, and the parking area and area to the northwest is in the city of Santa Barbara city limits and owned by the Santa Barbara Airport. And so we are looking at this modification due to the fact that the 6-foot-high fencing will be going all around the site, both the city of Goleta city limit side and the city of Santa Barbara side. The project that is taking place in the city of Santa Barbara is a parking lot being improved for the use with striping and landscaping. The Architectural Board of Review reviewed the parking lot and during the hearing noted that the modification was not detrimental to the project and supported the modification. Staff finds that this modification is consistent with code and really is necessary to secure the improvements that are being made to this property and prevent an unreasonable hardship that could be caused if we don't have the fencing go where it is proposed at 6 foot high. It could create kind of a little pocket where illegal camping could happen, and that would be not great for the transitional housing. The project is categorically exempt from environmental review per CEQA guidelines 15304, minor alterations to land, and staff recommends that the staff hearing officer approve the mod. And with that, it concludes my presentation. I have Tom Jess here with me as the applicant. So you have Team Jess here today. And he can answer any other questions that you may have.
The A-team. Excellent. Well, before I open it up to public comment, if you wouldn't mind, if you, at least pulling up if an elevation or if the plans.
Just say okay. There's all sorts of errors.
So I did put, good morning.
Good morning.
Tom Jess with Era Studio Architects. We're working with the Housing Authority for the County of Santa Barbara. I'll just call it HASBARCO. It's just easier to say that. On this project, this is a renovation of the old Super 8 into permanent supportive housing. We've worked with them on other projects, and they do a really great job of managing these projects and providing a needed service for the community. So one of the things, and just real briefly, just to kind of identify it here, it's right at the end of the airport there at Hollister and Fairview. You can see it off 101 pretty clearly there. And as was mentioned, it is a unique site because it's part in the city of Goleta and part in the city of Santa Barbara. So here's the site plan, and this is the area we're talking about here, just so we're clear. So we're talking about along Hollister. This portion here is in the city of Santa Barbara. This is in the city of Goleta. We have a 6-foot-high wrought iron fence that's running along the property line here, and that's something that the Housing Authority feels is critical to the success of the project, to be able to provide the security both for the residents and for people coming off-site onto site. And having the fence be 6 feet high is a critical part of it to make it so it's not climbable and easily accessible to actually provide that security. And then, so along the property line here, the 6-foot-high fence in the city of Goleta is approved, and what we're requesting to do is to continue it out to the corner here at that same line through the portion of that's in the city of Santa Barbara. This is what the fence looks like, just a wrought iron fence. There's landscaping behind it. So the visibility will be there. You'll be able to see through it. It just won't be climbable. And then that's really the extent of what we're asking. It's just, where right now at the property line, it would be allowed to be 3.5 feet high, which wouldn't provide the security, or we can move it back to 10 feet, but then we created that pocket where people could camp and so forth. So that's really the extent of the request right there.
Okay. Thank you so much for that explanation. And I'm going to go ahead and open up public comment for this particular item, 6021 Hollister Ave. We don't have anybody attending in person, and I did not receive any written correspondence. Ms. Gu, do we have anyone via Zoom who wishes to speak?
Did not see any raised hands for this particular item either.
Okay, I'm
Thank
going to
you.
close public comment. And just a couple of things. Again, very straight. I've had a lot of straightforward projects today. It makes sense. It would be weird to bring a fence halfway down a parcel line and then stop or have some other different type of context. So I feel sorry for you all that you're having to deal with so many jurisdictions and multiple processes. It's really excessive based on this type of request in some ways. So unfortunately, that's the case. The 3.5 feet is really kind of intended for a more residential area. The context is completely different from like more of a neighborhood feel. This is a motel that has a really creative use to try to propose the supportive housing. So it's near the airport. It's not necessarily the neighborhood context. So I think that this is a completely appropriate type of request to receive. And again, one, just to continue the fencing out, that you're not creating a wall, that there's, it's, you can still see through it. It's the nice quality. It's 6 feet, so it's not excessively high. I'll be requiring the modification for the height exception. And yes, I can support this this fence height modification for all the reasons as Ms. Metzger noted in her staff report, and the fact that again can understand the rationale for not wanting to push it back to create these kind of awkward pockets and trying to maximize the site. Address the existing fencing or the fencing that the city of Goleta already approved, and kind of the context just to continue that line and not have it be jogged out anywhere. That it's really critical for the success of this program and a really creative use of this motel. So I can make the findings for the fence height modification, again, that it's necessary for an appropriate improvement on the lot. And it's consistent with the municipal code, and that it is further exempt from environmental review as written in the staff report. And I don't have any other conditions to add to that. And your next steps will be to get finalization from the Architectural Board of Review. And my decision can be appealed within 10 calendar days, or any member of the Planning Commission could suspend my decision within that same time frame. But yes, I wish you luck with moving forward. Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. And that adjourns the staff hearing officer meeting for June 28th, 2023. Thank you.